Hi, this episode is about the chapter 11 of this special publication of SCG, and it's about Gedabek mining district in Azerbaijan, which is the central part of Tethyan Metallogenic belt. Here is a summary of why this study matters. This study flips the script when most exploration in the Tethyan belt chases younger Cenozoic age deposits. This research shows that Jurassic to Early Cretaceous systems, which were once thought eroded or barren, can still host world-class mineralization deposits. In Azerbaijan's Gedabek district, those ancient magmatic arcs didn't just survive, they thrived. Copper, gold, even high sulfidation epithermal systems remained preserved exactly where older models insisted they should have vanished. And the real breakthrough lies in linking ore formation to deep workings of the earth itself. Crustal thickening, slab rollback, and mantle upwelling created the conditions that drove metal fertility. It's not just about the rocks we see at the surface, it's about how tectonics orchestrated mineral systems over tens of millions of years. And even more powerful, this study provides a playbook for explorers by tracking chemical evolution and looking for right magma signatures. Geologists now have a roadmap to buried porphyry gold copper systems hidden in a forgotten terrain. And the implications stretch far beyond one district. It's from the Caucasus to the Pontids, and the pattern connects isolated discoveries into a regional framework. It's a metallogenic guide that could shape exploration strategies for years to come. Here's a regional map, and this map shows the hidden plumbing of the central Tethys orogenic belt, which is stretching from Turkey to Iran. It's not just a picture of landforms, it's a timeline of metal fertility across deep geologic time. If you look closely, you'll notice a handful of rare red dots at the center. These mark Jurassic-Early Cretaceous porphyry epithermal deposits, and they're almost like ghost mines from a much deeper past. One of the most striking examples lies in the Lesser Caucasus, where an unusually dense cluster of early deposits, including Gedabek, Chodar, and Gosha. And they're not random, they are remains of an ancient arc that began forming long before most explorers ever think to look. Their preservation tells us something profound about fertility, arc thickening, and magmatic signatures that point to porphyry epithermal. But step back and compare the rest of the belt. Most of it only lights up in the late Cretaceous and the Cenozoic. That's why many Jurassic systems have either been stripped away by erosion or simply never recognized or discovered. And that makes the Gedabek region not just unique, but potentially a template for finding other hidden systems which are buried deep in the crust. Here's another zoomed in map. This study challenges the way we think about exploration in the Tethyan belt, as I mentioned before. And it shows that Jurassic to early Cretaceous arcs were not all eroded away. They're still there, and they're still fertile. That means an entire frontier for discovery has been hiding in plain sight. You can see that in the eastern pontids of Turkey, clusters like Ispir and Olotash are dated at around 133 to 130 million years. Shift eastward, you can hit lesser Caucasus, Gedabek, and Dashkasan. They're all Jurassic to Early Cretaceous in age, and they are still mineralized. And go further into the Kapan block of Armenia, you can see the same story repeated with systems like Shikahok, which is dated at 166 to 130 million years. And what's striking here is not just preservation, but distribution. These early deposits are stitched along major suture zones, the Mamasya, Sevan, Ankara zone, the Izmir Ankara, Erzincan zone. There are geological scars that acted as plumbing for magmas and fluids. And instead of being random, the fertility is organized by deep tectonic architecture. And the styles of mineralization vary also in this region. Some districts host porphyry copper systems, others volcanogenic massive sulfides, and others epithermal gold. And it's like a metallogenic mosaic spread across the arc, which shows how different ore types can coexist in the same evolutionary story. And for exploration, these implications are powerful. If Jurassic age systems are preserved from Turkey to Azerbaijan, then the idea that older arcs are barren simply doesn't hold. And this map shows us that follow the sutures, trace the magmatic belts, and you may find new ground that most explorers have ignored. Here is another zoomed in map, which is Somkheto-Karabakh belt. And what makes this area special is that you're looking at a Jurassic-Early Cretaceous magmatic complex, more than 50 million years in making. From Gabah-Tepe, dating between 183 and 145 million years ago, to Dashkasan, active from 148 to 138 million years ago. The region records the full evolution of a magmatic arc from primitive magmas all the way to mature granodiorites. And with that magmatic evolution comes layered fertility. Multiple deposit types are stacked across this complex terrain. We have porphyry copper at Karadagh and Kharkhar. We have iron and cobalt skarns at Dashkasan, and high and low sulfidation epithermal systems at Gadir and Godar. It's like a metallogenic buffet. Every style of mineralization you could want preserved within volcanic and intrusive rocks that span from mid-Jurassic to the early Cretaceous. Now zooming to Gedabek open pit, where everything comes together. This ore body is not simple, it's a stacked system. We have potassic alteration at depths, overprinted by quartz, cersite, pyrite, and finally capped with kaolinite from late stage hydrothermal breccias. The timing of this evolution is nailed down with precision, with uranium with zircon, argon, muscovite dating, with place it between 140 and 136 million years ago, locking in the window when the system came alive. And layered on top of this chemistry is structural magic, a web of northwest and northeast trending faults, cross-cut by dikes and hydrothermal breccias. It created a textbook plumbing for fluid flow and ore concentration. And but what makes Gedabek stand out from most every other porphyry system worldwide is the preservation of its vertical profile. In many giant deposits like El Teniente or Bingham Canyon, the potassic core is deeply buried. It's mined through kilometers of overlying rock, and it's often overprinted or obscured by later events. At Yanacocha in Peru, for example, one of the largest high sulfidation systems on Earth, the porphyry roots are completely hidden and only the epithermal cap is preserved. But Gedabek is different. Here the potassic core is exposed at surface and right beside epithermal assemblages. You can literally walk across a single pit wall and move from biotite and K-feldspar altered porphyry rocks to kaolinite rich high sulfidation epithermal zones. And that kind of telescoping is almost never exposed in one place. So that's why Gedabek matters. It's not just a mine, it's a natural lab. It's a place where porphyry to epithermal transition is late Pierre. It's letting us that the study of interplay of magmas, structures, and then fluids with the clarity that you don't get at most world-class systems. Here's a chart of dating results for different region in this belt, and this chart is not just a set of dots and lines. It's a 70 million year geological symphony spanning 4 mining districts. We have Ispiri Rotash in Turkey, Kapan and Shikahok in Armenia, Gedabek in Azerbaijan, and Tekuk, Alaverdi further north. Each line represents a dated intrusion, a known and ore-forming pause, or hydrothermal overprint. In Alaverdi and Gedabek, magmatism begins in the mid-Jurassic, around 180 million years ago, and continues all the way into the early Cretaceous at about 130 million years. That's a full arc maturation, evolving from nascent, from gabbros to more developed granodiorites. The Gedabek system in particular shows multiple magmatic pulses, each marked by its own style of intrusion and unique geochemical signature. Overlying ore-forming events reveal a deeper story. Kharkhar's porphyry copper formed around 133 million years ago, while Gedabek potassic alteration and epithermal overprint took place just before that, between 140 and 136 million years ago. And perhaps the most compelling insight lies in the time trends. Younger magmatism and ore events migrate southeastward across the belt. It's a pattern that may reflect slab rollback and arc retreat. And to the northwest, systems are older and crust dominated. To the southeast, they are younger, increasingly mantle influenced. And so it's not just tectonics, it's a predictive tool for exploration. So that's why this timeline matters. Each point is not simply a date, it's a vector for discovery. And by aligning geology with geochronology, we don't just look at ore deposits, we begin to understand why they formed, when they formed, and where the next ones may still be waiting. As I said before, at Gedabek the preservation is remarkable. We have well-developed potassic alteration appears in what seems to be a shallow level system. You can clearly see biotite veins, K-feldspar alteration, Muscovite K-feldspar assemblages. They're all exposed in the open pit. And as I said, in most epithermal or printed porphyry systems, especially in high sulfidation settings, the potassic core is usually either eroded away or buried deep below. But here it sites side by side with the epithermal assemblages in the very same wall of rock. And this tells us erosion has been minimal, and the mineralizing system is stacked in a narrow vertical window, which is quite a rare opportunity to study the full transition from porphyry to epithermal in one place. And the ore textures add to the story. Semi-massive lenses of pyrite with complex intergrowths. They stand out from what you would normally expect. Instead of just dissemination or vein halos, we can see replacement style bodies that suggest intense overprinting by high sulfidation epithermal fluids. And the volume of pyrite here looks like more like what you expect in VMS or skarn systems than in a classic porphyry environment. And the mineralogy confirms complexity. We have enargite, tennantite, even electrum appear alongside chalcopyrite and K-feldspar. And this unusual coexistence signals a telescoped system, one where porphyry copper-gold fluids were overprinted by more acidic epithermal fluids. The microtextures back these stories up. Zones, sulfides, and overgrowths in reflected light reveal repeated hydrothermal events, not just a single mineralizing stage. And for exploration, those zoning patterns are like a compass. They tell you where you are vertically within the system. And even the intrusions themselves record a sequence. A gabbroic diorite dike dated at 164 million years, cut across altered volcanic sand, is then overprinted by potassic and later cercitic assemblage. This cross-cutting relationship is rarely captured so clearly in porphyry case studies. Here in plot A tracks gold against silver in different sulfide assemblages, and what it reveals is zoning and the story of fluid inclusion and fluid evolution. At one end, low silver to gold ratios mark the supergene zones, and kaolinite-rich epithermal halos. At the other end, sharp enrichments in galena, tennantite, and chalcopyrite, and dark sphalerite zones appear inside semi-massive pyrite. The transition from scattered low-grade zones to these concentrated high-grade pockets reflects a fundamental shift in hydrothermal conditions and the way metals were transported. The chemistry of sphalerite adds another dimension. By plotting iron against zinc content, we can trace sulfidation stage over time. Early stage sphalerite, which is dark and iron rich, formed with chalcopyrite and arsenopyrite under reduced porphyry-like conditions. And later, lighter sphalerite records intermediate to high sulfidation, often overprinted by covellite and chalcopyrite and chalcocite. And the trend is powerful. It shows fluids evolving from hotter, reduced porphyry roots to cooler, oxidized epithermal zones. And here is a detail often overlooked. The darkness of sphalerite itself correlates with its iron content. Higher iron not only makes the mineral look darker under reflected light, but it also points to higher formation temperatures, and it turns sphalerite into a natural geothermometer. At Gedabek, that plays out beautifully. The dark iron-rich sphalerite found with chalcopyrite and pyrite likely formed during the hotter stages of potassic alteration. And as I said, they are linked to porphyry-style mineralization and lighter sphalerite, which is tied to covellite, chalcocite, and even electrum, formed later under cooler and more acidic, high sulfidation conditions. And most porphyry systems lose that record, but here you can trace the entire evolution from magmatic hydrothermal roots all the way to late stage epithermal overprints. Here we have the result of uranium lead zircon dating. First, the magmatic hydrothermal timeline is exceptionally long. Uranium lead zircon ages stretch across nearly 40 million years, from gabric diorite at about 164 million years to granodiorite at 125 million years. And this span is extraordinary in many of the world's classic porphyry systems, like El Teniente and Bingham or even Patohijo. The duration from magma emplacement to ore formation is usually less than 10 to 15 million years. And the implication here is amazing. Gedabek was part of a long-lived magmatic arc system with repeated pulses of intrusion and mineralizing fluids, possibly tied to slab rollback and crustal reorganization over deep time. And the second thing is, despite the wide magmatic span, the ore-forming ages are tightly clustered. Argon-argon dates for hydrothermal minerals like muscovite and K-feldspar fall between 140 and 136 million years. And these ages align with the potassic and phyllic alteration phases, the very stages when the main mineralization occurred. And that means that even in such a complex and long-lived system, economic ore formations was concentrated in a short climatic pulse, and likely during a period of intense crustal thickening or volatile release. And the third interesting point is the magmas themselves tell us that not all intrusions were created equal, and unaltered granite dated at 133 million years contrasts sharply with altered intrusions like 140 million year granodiorite and the older gabric diorite at 164. In other words, Only some magmatic pulses were fertile, not all of them. And for exploration, that's a crucial lesson, and that not every intrusion contributes to ore. Petrology, alteration halos, and geochronology must be integrated to pinpoint the productive events. And finally, the dating itself is remarkably clean. Argon-argon spectra yield plateau ages with low MSWD values and excellent coverage. They're often above 80%. And that level of precision means that hydrothermal system was well behaved and undisturbed. In many porphyry epithermal systems, thermal overprints or supervision process blur the picture. But at Gedabek, the timelines remain quite sharp and intact. Here in the first diagram, you can see strontium to yttrium ratios plotted against silica content. It's a classic way to track magmatic fractionation. Points that fall along the low strontium-yttrium trend reflect plagioclase fractionation, which is typical of shallow magmatic systems. But Gedabek and its neighbors like Marif and Jaigir, they sit much higher on the plot in the field that suggests amphibole and garnet fractionation. And that's a fingerprint of deep magmatic evolution under high pressure conditions, which is a prime territory for porphyry fertility. In the second diagram, dysprosium yttrium versus SiO2, it let us peer even deeper. Magmas dominated by amphibole fractionation show moderate ratios in these diagrams, but once garnet becomes stable at depths, this ratio values climb, and especially at high silica content. And Gedabek falls right into that garnet stability field. It means that its magmas were stored or crystallized deep in the lower crust. And what makes this unusual is how different it is from standard arc evolution. Most porphyry systems mature at mid-crustal levels, dominated by plagioclase fractionation. Gedabek's chemistry points instead to thickened crust and high-pressure magma storage and prolonged water-rich evolution. And this combination, deep oxidized and hydrated, creates the perfect condition for copper and gold ore formation. Here we have a reconstruction of the geodynamic in this belt from mid-Jurassic to early Cretaceous. It begins in the middle Jurassic, a flat subduction zone beneath the South Armenian block gives rise to a young Toiletic to transitional arc. This early arc is immature, producing bimodal volcanism and even plagiogranites. And it's not fertile yet, but it's laying the groundwork for what will come. Around 175 to 165 million years ago, Gedabek's magmatic roots are born. Then, around 160 million years ago, everything shifts. The subducting slab begins to steepen and triggering astronospheric mantle upwelling and arc thickening and transition to from medium to high potassium alkaline magmatism. And this is the turning point when the chemistry of magmas evolve and they become water-rich, oxidized, and loaded with metals. And this is when porphyry systems first begin to take shape. The climax arrives between 140 and 133 million years ago, with crustal thickening and volatile build-up reaching a peak. Gedabek's porphyry epithermal systems emerged. Diorite, granite, and granodiorite intrusions feed hydrothermal circulation. Ore fluids rise through fractures, depositing copper, gold, and silver from the deep porphyry cores to the shallow epithermal caps. And that's why Gedabek is more than a deposit, it's a model arc. The geodynamic recipe is clear. Slab rollback decompresses the mantle, arc migration melts crust and metasomatized mantle, and crustal thickening boosts pressure, redox state, and water content. Together, all of these forces create the holy trinity for porphyry copper gold formation. To wrap up this presentation, Gedabek system offers something rare in global metallogeny. It's a complete time-resolved archive from magma genesis through to hydrothermal mineralization. And that alone makes it quite unique in terms of geochronology, but its value goes beyond dates. Gedabek showcases a long-lived magmatic arc with clear signals of crustal thickening, deep storage, and oxidized conditions, which are key ingredients for fertile porphyry systems. In a textbook example of telescoping, where porphyry and epithermal environments overlap in space and time, anchored by precisely datable minerals. This makes Gedabek not just an ore deposit, but it's a benchmark for understanding how subduction dynamics, arc migration, and pressure-temperature redox conditions evolve across time. And finally, by shifting the spotlight back to Jurassic-Cretaceous systems in the Tethyan belt, Gedabek challenges exploration teams to look deeper at forgotten arcs and ancient rocks. Thanks for watching.